Hi again. Today we are learning about how to decrease the amount of carbs you're having in your diet, how to know what carbs are, how to be able to find out how much carbs are in your food sources. So, first thing we're going to talk about is the glycemic index. This is going to be your best friend. The glycemic index is something that you use to find out what the number is. They give every kind of food a number. So, complex carbs, simple carbs are given a number. So you can go online and you can look up the glycemic index of a food and it will give you a number. You want a low glycemic index number. The lower the number, the better. All that means is that how quickly does that food source convert into glucose, to energy. Okay? The faster it converts, the higher the number. The longer it takes, the lower the number. Here's where we come into complex and simple carbs. Simple carbs means that they quickly convert into sugar, meaning their glycemic index number is high. Examples of those would be sugars, pastries, muffins, cakes, anything that's just pure sugar, baklava, something like that, where it's just a lot of sugars in there. They are a simple carbohydrate, okay? It also is code for not much nutritional value. Hence, we want to be avoiding them, okay? Complex carbs are different. Complex carbs means that there's much more structure to them, they take longer to break down, and they offer more nutritional value. Good. We're still going to be regulating how much carbs we're going to be having, but when you're eating carbs, you want them more to be complex carbs, and that usually means the number is going to be down. So that would be more vegetables, that would be more fruits that have a lower glycemic index, like the berries, blackberries, blueberries, raspberries. Those all have lower glycemic index. So you're going to be doing a bit of fiddling. You're going to be doing a bit of looking up numbers. You know what your foods are that you kind of like. Check them out to see where they are on the scale. Because remember, we're trying to do 20 to 25 grams of carbs only. So I will tell you in advance that vegetables are a better source. If you're going to have fruit, you have to limit the fruit, smaller amounts, because they actually pack a lot more. Okay, so here's the next thing I want to talk about. This is so relevant for a lot of people. There are people that are seriously addicted to sugar. And when you go on this plan of going through this, and you've been having a lot of pops and a lot of sugars and a lot of processed foods, I would expect that you're going to go through withdrawals. Your body is not going to be happy. It is going to be screaming for sugars, screaming for it. So if you are that person, please refer back to the video I did before on how to get more fat in your diet. I would highly recommend that you start off and spend more time in that phase so that your body is really getting satisfied with fats before you try to extricate a whole bunch of carbs, because your body is going to go, whoa, okay? You might still go through a bit of a flu symptom. They call it keto flu, which is when your body is really craving sugar. It might cause a headache feeling. If that's the case, peppermint oil your head. It's a fabulous way to do that. Just get some peppermint oil and put it around, and it really alleviates the problem. Or take Advil if you need it. You might need it for a few days depending on how much of a sugar addict you are, okay? But just know that they actually classify that sugar as a drug. That's how serious a problem it is, okay? So now here's where it gets interesting. So this is where I have a beef with a lot of corporations, because processed foods, which is anything that you're buying at the store that's been quick to get a package that can last a long time and not go bad, is pretty much processed foods, okay? They are designed. They spend millions of dollars figuring out how to get you craving their food, okay? They have a satiate factor where they get just the right amount of sugar, salt, fat on the bad fat on your tongue to make you crave it more. So when you feel like you can't stop eating it, cut yourself a whole bunch of slack. It's not your fault. It's actually been designed to do that. It's doing exactly what it was designed to do. So the more you can give fat into your diet, the more you offer that fat coffee and have some of those extra fats on your food, you will notice that this becomes a little bit easier to deal with. All right? So just remember, they're designed to increase your cravings for that food. This includes fast food chains. This is not just foods you buy that are in the packages. This is when you go to that checkout stand and you're buying that food. They're creating that so that it causes you to crave it a lot more. It's really important for you to understand that, okay? So, how do you know? How do you figure out how much a carb is? Okay, so one of the things that's really important to understand, when you buy packaged foods, and some fast food stores are getting better about telling you what the carb content is and the sugar value is of stuff if you ask for it. If you don't ask for it, they won't tell you. But if you ask and you go in armed with information, you can find it. So when you pick up something at the grocery store, so for the next while, be prepared. You're going to be doing a lot. Plan on extra time at the store. You're going to be turning around and looking back at packages, and they're going to be your friend, okay? I'm not going to go into it now, but just believe me when I tell you, ignore what's on the front of the package, flip it around. We are looking for the ingredients list that they are required to put what the parameters are on with foods. If you're in anywhere else other than Canada and the States, you're laughing because they're not allowed to do a lot of this stuff here. Unfortunately, in Canada and in the US in particular, there are no strict regulations. They can do puffery, they can lie, they can say all this stuff on there. So if you are living in either of those two countries, get yourself armed because you're in for a battle. So you flip the page over, you're looking. Your first thing you want to look at is carb content. And it has to tell you what the carb content is. Now they've gotten tricky, they found ways to devise it, but you are looking for the carb content, and then you are looking directly below to see if there's fiber. So they have to write down the carbs. So it'll say carbs, and then it'll say fiber, and then it'll say sugar, and a new little tricky thing they started is other carbs. Now, other carbs is just a fancy way of saying more sugar, but they don't want you to know that because you know that you're supposed to be avoiding sugar, so they've tricked you by putting it in there, especially cereals. You notice a lot with cereals. So you want to look at the carb content. Let's say the carb content is 30 grams, okay? The next thing you want to look at is the serving size, because especially in cereals, they love to trick you. They'll have like a quarter or a third of a cup. Who has a quarter or a third of a cup of cereal? You want to be comparing that quantity to the next. So if, let's say, the one cereal box or the one thing you're looking at has a quarter sizing, then you need to be, if the next one has got a half, you have to recognize you need to double the other one because it's a smaller serving size. So just make sure that you're watching that as well. But for now, to play it safe, just avoid all cereals. Off the ballpark. But if you want to understand and learn more about this and get shocked, because you will be, turn it over and look. So let's say it's got 30 grams. And let's say it has 2 grams of fiber, okay? That means that of the actual carb count that you were required to count, because remember we're counting that 20 to 25 grams, 30 minus 2, because net carbs is what we're actually looking for. And net carbs means carbohydrates, the carbs, minus the fiber content. So the higher the fiber, the more that number drops down. And examples of those are the chia seeds and the hemp hearts, and the flax seeds, super high in fiber. So if you have any kind of digestion, constipation problems, they are fabulous to be had. That coconut bark is excellent for you because it will literally give you the fiber. Way more fiber than when you see these cereals that say high fiber content. They're not that high fiber. So what I want you to recognize is that's what we're looking at. And then I want you to be looking at the sugar count. So let's say the carbs are 30 grams, the fibers are 2 grams, and we have 18 grams. Okay, that means that food that we're looking at, more than half of it is sugar. And sometimes you're going to get a lot even more. One of the biggest ones that are going to shock you the most is going to be your yogurts. You're going to be blown away at how much sugar they put in yogurt. So when you're buying yogurt, I always recommend Greek yogurt, buy it plain, add in your own sweetener, add in your own flavoring, whether it's vanilla extract, but you definitely want to be getting plain because they are just pumping and it's the bad kind of sugar. Okay, so just to go over this again, this is really important you get that. You are looking at the glycemic index of food. Lots of sites online list all the food you could possibly question as to what the glycemic index. You want to be finding a low number, because we need to be only hitting 20 to 25 grams of carbs a day. Now, when you're calculating what the carb is, you have to look for the net carbs, which is the carbs minus the fiber. That gives you your net carb amount, okay? And for some foods, it is a big difference. That is a big difference. So if I've got 5 grams of carbs and it's giving me 5 grams or 4 grams of carbs, that's only 1 gram of carb I have to count. So that's important for you to recognize that, all right? The other thing I want to talk about is, I get asked this a lot. Well, what about those bars that you've got that are lower carb? The net carb is 1, 2 Atkins bars, and Kirkland brand makes a really good protein bar. Those are actually okay. They are processed, so they don't fit into the great category, but they are okay in a pinch. But if you are this person right here, which is you pretty much think that you're going through withdrawals, best to stay away from them until you get to the place that your cravings are gone. Okay, so remember that scale I have?